Tiffany Paige here of Green with Tiffany, and today we're here at the Santa Monica Pier Aquarium, and it's located underneath the carousel at the world-famous Santa Monica Pier. And I am very excited to be here. Joining me is Dr. Ryan Martin. How are you?
Doing great, Tiffany. Good to see you.
You're here. So, doctor, I have this mole I'd like you to check out.
Well, Tiffany, I'm not that kind of doctor, but I'll take a look at it for you later.
Oh, thanks. How many times do you hear that? So what kind of doctor are you?
So my degrees are in biochemistry and organic chemistry, with a specialization in the synthesis and degradation of polymers.
You saw my eyes glaze over. Okay, so what does that mean? What is a polymer?
A polymer basically is a very long molecule. So proteins, carbohydrates, these are polymers. And when we make polymers that are melt processable, which just means we can melt them into a mold, melt them into any shape we want, we call those thermoplastics, or for short, just plastic.
Now you're speaking my terms. I know plastic, right? Plastics are a huge problem in our oceans, and they affect a lot of our marine life, as you can see behind us, these cute little fishies. But they also play a part in our life, and I wanted to see this firsthand. I went on an expedition with the 5 Gyres, which is a nonprofit, which is where I met Dr. Martin on this trip. So as a citizen scientist, with a real scientist, we went and we took samples of the ocean from Bermuda to Iceland. So spent 21 days at sea. Dr. Martin here processed those samples. He is the founder of FloridaSustainables, as well as being an advisor for the 5 Gyres here in Los Angeles, and a visiting scholar for the University of Florida. So
right, so that lets me tackle this problem of ocean plastic pollution from different angles. We've got commercial, nonprofit, and also academic.
How does plastics end up in the ocean? We recycle, we throw it away, it ends up in landfills, which is not great either, but how does it end up in the ocean?
One of the major ways it ends up in the ocean is actually through things like rivers and storm drains. I'll challenge you to do this. Next time you're walking to work or walking to a cafe, take a look down at the ground. I bet you'll see plastic scattered along the ground. It happens all the time. What happens is that plastic will eventually get washed away from the rain or the winds, and it ends up in our waterways, ends up in the storm drains, goes out to the ocean. So multiply that by everyone around the world every day. This is a very big cumulative problem.
Huge. In fact, they just had a study come out that 270,000 tons, right, of plastics has been found in our world's oceans. That is not okay.
No, it's not. And that is just an estimate of what's actually at the surface. And you have to understand that plastics mostly don't float. A lot of plastics sink. So 270,000 tons at the surface, which, by the way, if we were to translate that into California speak, that's like driving a couple 100,000 Toyota Priuses into the ocean.
And that's broken down in little pieces, not full,
right,
not full Priuses.
Right. Plastics, when they get into the ocean, they get broken down by UV and the water, oxygen into tiny little pieces. So we estimate that there are about 5 trillion of these pieces floating around near the ocean surface. And then if you consider that the plastics really are dispersed throughout the water column and deposited on the sea floor, those numbers skyrocket up.
I had a guy make a comment on a post that I think I posted about plastics. A lot of times they accumulate in the plant life that's out there, and then fish eat them, and it breaks down in these little pieces, and fish mistake it for food. And his comment was something about, well, they have to eat something, you know, why not it be plastic?
That's not going to work out too well for the fish. And I would say to your friend, try eating a plastic-only diet for a little while. See how long he lasts.
Yeah, well, definitely not a friend. So what happens to the plastics out there once they break down?
Plastics are these long molecules, and if we were to zoom in on a piece of plastic to the molecular level, they're kind of like this big pot of spaghetti.
Spaghetti, is it dinner time?
Right, with the long polymer strands all intertwined like this. And when these polymers get into the ocean, when these plastics are in the ocean, they do break down. It's not that they don't break down, but they break down in a way that we really don't want them to. What happens is the polymer strands stay long and these clumps stay together. So as the plastic becomes brittle and breaks apart by different mechanical motions, you just wind up with these big chunks of the long spaghetti, the long polymer chains, and these get dispersed throughout the ocean, just as if you were to take these chunks and just throw them around the room, just making a big mess, and you wind up with a much bigger problem than what we started with. And over time, this isn't even going to look like a pot of spaghetti anymore, and we wouldn't be able to see it as that. The oceans are really like a soup of these little particles, these plastics, these microplastics, or a smog. It's very much like the smog that we might see here in LA.
We see that every day, so then that makes a difference to us. We don't see it in the ocean.
Right, very hard to detect. So when organisms come along and try to eat things like this, these long polymer strands, they get stuck in the cells. They're too big to be metabolized. They get stuck in there and they create things like hormonal imbalances, or they can even create cell death. So this death and unhealthiness just works its way up the food chain.
So it does affect us.
Absolutely affects us. Whether you live near the coast or not, whether you eat fish or not, we're all tied to the oceans, we're all tied to water. This is a blue planet. You can't get away from it.
Knowing this, single-use plastics are kind of the most detrimental. A few of the things that you could do to make a little bit of a difference would be not using plastic bags, using a reusable bag. It's so easy to just make the transition. Single-use water bottles, right? I mean, really, we drink that for 2 seconds and we throw them away. They are clogging up our waterways for sure. And then plastic straws. Wow, I was just in New Orleans and in those hurricanes, they put 4 straws. The average that we throw away in the US is 500 million straws a day. Those 3 things would make a difference. What else do we need?
Well, I like to talk about the 4 R's. We've heard about the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, recycle, which you do a great job of talking about. And then I also like to add reinvent.
Reinvent, that's a good one. New designs.
Right, so we need to focus on the science and the engineering behind it all. We need better and smarter materials. We need better packaging design. Also, we need better policies to stop this type of waste going into the ocean in the first place.
And that's what 5 Gyres helps to do as well.
Absolutely.
And you're going on another trip. I can't believe it.
Of course, yeah.
Caribbean Ryan. He got this nickname because from Bermuda to Iceland, Bermuda was warm, obviously, and then it started to get a little colder. And he was still fine wearing his tank top, shorts, and flip-flops while all of us were like, oh my gosh. So we call him Caribbean Ryan. And
sure.
Now you're going to be in a warmer place?
Yeah, definitely. The work continues, and we're going to sail out to the Bahamas and Bermuda this summer, studying the oceans, and then also Jack Johnson is going to come with us this time, which is exciting, one of my favorite musicians. And we're going to put on an environmental summit for the island youth out there to talk about plastic pollution, bringing together musicians and scientists, artists.
Oh, that's going to be great. And they seem to be a lot more aware of the plastic pollution, I feel. Maybe because they're around the beaches more?
It is easier for them to see it, being on an island, because they are truly surrounded by it and see it every day.
That is going to be fun. Jack Johnson does a lot to raise awareness for the environment. He started a foundation with his wife, yeah?
Absolutely, yeah. He grew up on the shores of Hawaii as a pro surfer and big into ocean conservation. He has the All at Once Foundation that he started with his wife, and also the Johnson Ohana Charitable Foundation. So 5 Gyres are partnering with these foundations to do the expedition this summer and also the youth summit.
Oh my gosh, so fun. Well, at least it'll be warm this year. Well, you were warm last year. I was freezing. So if you want more information, you can go to 5gyres.org. They are dedicated to ending plastic pollution and finding new solutions and making new policies. As well as we want to thank Heal the Bay for letting us use their beautiful aquarium. It's open to the public for marine education. There are over 100 species of animals and plants that are here that you can learn about. Well, thank you so much. It was so great to see you after our trip, and thank you for all the information.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tiffany. It was great to see you again, too.
We'll see you next time on Green with Tiffany.